here tonight.
Stand up too.
We're here tonight. Matt, an old friend of ours, is going to give us a speech about and educate us about the Montessori school system. We're going to have a little education on education. I don't really know anything about the Montessori school system, so this is going to be all new for me as well. But some of my high school classmates, when they were elementary school students or preschool students or whatever the age they were when they were younger, they went to Montessori school. And I was always very jealous of them because when I was in high school, I actually went to the Montessori school after class hours to pick up my friend's little brother who was going to this school. And it was just like, it looked like just everything was free. It looked like just fun playtime. I don't know if it's really like that. I don't know if it's really like that, but it looked like that. It was like big open spaces, not these like classrooms where the chairs are facing forward, just big open spaces where kids were running around. I just felt jealous. Anyway, I can't give you any more information than that, so I'm going to turn it over to Matt.
All right, thank you, Ethan. Thank you, Ethan. Good, I got my first applause. It's sort of interesting. I perform comedy here in Taiwan. I can stand in front of 200 people and do comedy and not feel a thing. This is my first Montessori talk, and I'm nervous. I'm kind of afraid the Montessori police are going to come busting through the door, arrest me, and throw me into jail or something. So, if you'll just bear with me during those normal times and the times I twirl my pen in my hand and the times I kind of stutter, we'll get through this together and have some fun. First off, I'm curious why you guys are here. For me, I've been in Montessori since before I was born. I was probably and my mom working on the Montessori materials. Both my parents are Montessori teachers. I was born and I was literally taken almost from the delivery room into the classroom. My parents were teaching preschool and kindergarten Montessori, and when my brother and I were babies, they brought us into the classroom to let the children interact with us, learn how to take care of us, work with us. So I've grown up in this, and for the longest time I did not want to be a teacher, and here I am in Taiwan teaching English. So I'm wondering what are your experiences? Do any of you have experiences with Montessori?
We ordered a coffee. There's a coffee here.
There's a coffee here? All right. Do any of you have experiences with Montessori? Do you know what it is? Are you guys totally clueless? All right, go ahead.
Okay, I was a Montessori student in my first 3 years of schooling, from years 5 to 8, when I was growing up in Western Australia. And they were definitely the best schooling years of my life, the ones I can remember the most distinctly. I can still remember my classmates' names, the activities we did. I can remember my teachers' names, my principal's names, and her husband's name, and her son's name. And I can remember very distinctly the emphasis on learning that was taught. And basically the children are taught not only to learn how to learn, but also to enjoy learning. I think that's one of the greatest gifts of the Montessori system. I've been involved for the last nearly basically 6.5, 7 years with a Montessori kindergarten in Banqiao, where I actually worked for 5.5 years until work pressure actually, my proper day job, took me away from it. I was only there for a few hours a week, 2 days a week. And I was very impressed to find a properly accredited Montessori kindergarten in Taiwan, because I think it's definitely the kind of education system that Taiwan needs, and not only Taiwan but any kind of culture. I mean, certainly I think it was the best schooling year that I had in Australia, and I'm very interested to see more involvement in Taiwan.
Do you want to switch places? No, it was perfect. I'm just kidding, of course. I had a similar experience, except my principal at my Montessori school was a nun. So no wife or children. I don't know her. But I remember many of the nuns I had. Anyone? I mean, are you guys? A lot of you Bushiban teachers, I guess. No. Okay. No, I'm getting a yes right here. All right. Let me ask you this: what do you see in the Bushiban when you go? I was like, what are your kids like? What do they?
Well, I guess you would like to hear the answer that it's like Montessori.
No. I want to hear your experience. And let's not put the camera on him so he doesn't get in trouble with his boss later.
Okay, learning through playing.
Learning through play. That's actually great. What ages do you teach?
Sorry?
What ages do you teach?
I was 6 to 12.
Okay. I've had a totally different experience with the Bushiban, unfortunately, with most of my jobs. My current job is great. Thanks, boss. But my current job's okay, but a lot of what I see, I go into class sometimes, and I see these kids who are just bored. They're drained out, they're tired, they don't want to be in my class. It's 8 o'clock at night, they'd rather be home, and they're just having to fill out these worksheets of grammar rules that don't really apply to them very much. And so I guess my first thing to say about Montessori is get rid of any idea you have about education right now. If you want to learn about Montessori, just get rid of everything you've ever learned about education. Get rid of the image. Just pretend like you've never seen a classroom, pretend like you've never seen a school, and let me try to start from that. Montessori actually starts with observing children. Maria Montessori was a medical doctor in the early 20th century, Italy's first female medical doctor, actually. And she had the chance to work with these children that were, they called them deficient children. Unfortunately, it was a term of the time. These were children that had severe learning difficulties or even mild difficulties. They didn't fit in the regular school system, and instead of trying to figure out what they needed, they just put them in this institution, locked them up, and just fed them, gave them water, gave them whatever medical care they needed. And she started observing them and seeing what they were interested in, what drew them to different things. And from that, she started teaching these children, which everyone thought was kind of crazy at the time. And then she started teaching them how to read, how to write, how to do math, and they ended up taking the normal Italian education tests and passing better than the kids who were going to the regular school system. She had the chance to try out her theories on normal children. I hate using those words, but at the time that's what they called them. And they just took off from there. So one of the things we notice about education is that first off, we have to observe children. Like, think of it, have you ever seen a 3 or 4-year-old want to learn something? One of the biggest 3 or 4-year-old questions is why? Mommy, why is this happening? Why are dinosaurs dead? Why does the sun go up and go down? Why does the moon come out at night? Why does the stars come out? Why don't we see them in the day? We just get all these why questions. If you've ever walked into a class of 13 and 14-year-olds, their question tends to be, is this going to be on the test? Or will this be for homework tonight? We don't get those why questions. And my theory is that it's because we stop at about age 6, up to between birth and age 6, we're always watching our kids, seeing what they need, what they're interested in, and we tailor everything we're interested in to fit them. Once they get into 1st grade, 2nd grade, 3rd grade, all the way up, we stop that and we say, this is what you have to learn. A kid asks a question in class, we say, we don't have time for that, we have to do this worksheet. Kids try to work together, we say, oh no, that's cheating on the test. And, anywhere else it'd be collaboration. In the classroom we call it cheating. So that's one of the reasons why they lose interest. Another reason is because everything is hands-off. Now I brought a bunch of materials with me and I lost them on the way here. But I've made some materials here. It's nothing much, but it's just a couple of square pieces of paper with the number 1 on them. And I'd like a volunteer to help me out with this. This actually happened to me the other day. I was in a restaurant and I was practicing for my speech just with the materials. And there's a 10-year-old girl that works in the restaurant. It's actually a family. They have the restaurant in their basement. And she came over and was wondering what they were, and so I showed her this. But I need a volunteer really quickly. Can I? Yes! Come on up, all right. Now what I did was I started teaching her square roots. Now normally in square roots I don't know how normal classes teach square roots. I've never seen that actually happen before. But this is just a 9-year-old girl, 10-year-old girl. And what I did was I wrote down on the piece of paper, all right, the square root of 9 equals, all right? And the answer is 3, yes. So what I need you to do, these would be actual materials. I don't have them with me, but I just went ahead and drew ones of them. So go ahead and count up 9 of those for me. Yeah, sorry, let's think of it. 9. All right. Now, can you make?
Oh wait, no, that's.
Oh, that's 10? Okay, 2, 4, 6, 8, that is 9. All right. Can you go ahead and make those into the biggest square you can? Now, they're not going to be perfect because they're just my torn apart piece of paper. But let's see how you do.
Biggest square.
Yeah, just the biggest square that you can. Okay, yeah, I'll let you play with it for a minute.
Fail.
All right, it's not.
No, it's all right. There's no failure.
It's not a trick question.
No, I mean just like an actual square. Yeah, it's okay. You got it. Now we can put them closer here. Now, how many are on that side?
3.
How many are on that side?
3.
How many are on that side?
3.
How many are on this side?
3.
3. So the square root of 9 is 3. All right. Yeah, I'm gonna give you 16. 9, 10, 11, 12. 13, 14, 15, 16. Okay. Can you make the biggest square you can with that? Okay. One flew away, but there you go. How many are up there? 4. How many? 4. 4 and 4. So the square root of 16 is 4. All right. Thank you very much.
I can do math.
You can do math. Now what happened was, I've seen this girl many times in her restaurant, and I've seen her working on countless worksheets. I've seen her working on countless math problems. And what she always tends to do is she always tends to fall asleep. She'll be sitting there working. She was bored to death, and she'll fall asleep. She came over and looked at this material and wondered what I was doing, and I just showed her that, and she kept having me give her another problem, another long division, another square root problem. From there, I taught her division. I taught her addition with these, she already knew addition, but I worked with her with that anyway. I taught her division. I taught her square roots. I taught her multiplication. She just sat there and just soaked it all up. And when I think about Montessori, I guess my biggest question is, wouldn't you love to learn that way? Wouldn't you love to be excited to go into your school every day and say, I want to know what's going on here. I want to know exactly what this is. I want to know how this all fits together. I want to pick this stuff up and play with it. I want to work with it. I want to see what happens. And that's one of the biggest examples in Montessori. Now, I have, excuse me for a second. I think the way we teach is outdated right now. The way we teach was perfect for the early 20th century. It's based on what we call a factory model of education. It's set to the bell every 40 minutes. Everything's compartmentalized. Math is math, science is science, history is history. And it's just really getting outdated. So I will be the first Montessori person to say that I don't think Maria Montessori was right for early 20th century American culture. I said it. I do think she is right for the 21st century and later 20th century and 21st century. And the reason is this, because we need creativity, we need innovation, and we need new ideas. We need people who are interested in certain things. Now, what is Montessori? Montessori is divided up into several different age groups. There's infant and toddler. There's 3 to 6-year-olds. There's 6 to 9-year-olds. There's 9 to 12-year-olds. There's now even junior high and senior high. Maria Montessori started off with 3 to 6-year-olds. There are 5 different areas of the Montessori classroom. There's practical life. This is the most important area. This is where they learn a lot about taking care of themselves, taking care of each other. They learn concentration, the ability to work with things, and hold on. Let me stop here for a second. And the only reason I'm stopping here is because I'm starting to bore myself. I'm not stopping the speech completely. I'm just changing tracks a little bit. All right? I'm going to be honest. I'm just delete everything I've said before. I'm going to throw this out and just talk from my experience, all right? Montessori is divided up into several different age groups. The one I'm most passionate about is the 3 to 6 age group. This is your preschool and kindergarten. And there are many different areas of the classroom. There's math, there's science, there's language, there's practical life, and there's something we call sensorial, which helps you develop your senses. What is long, what is short, what is rough, what is smooth, with different colors, and different smells, and different tastes, everything like that. And what the idea behind this is very simple. Everything in the Montessori curriculum is connected. The sensorial materials help build concentration, they help build focus, they help build a different concentration, focus, and
memory?
You what?
Memory.
Memory. Thank you.
Yeah, you don't want to say discipline.
Discipline.
That's like that's the logical next word. But
Actually, I do want to say discipline. What you'll see when you walk into a Montessori classroom is very different from a regular classroom. In a regular classroom, the children are sitting there, trying to pay attention to the teacher. Even in preschool and kindergarten, it happens. They're sitting around the teacher, they're listening to the teacher, and they're trying to focus on what the teacher's saying. The teacher's trying to get the kids to pay attention. That doesn't happen in a Montessori classroom. What you have are, in a typical Montessori classroom, let's just say 30 children, maybe 2 adults, which sounds like a lot for a 3 to 6-year-old classroom, but everyone is free to move around. There are tables that they can sit at and work at. They can take the material off the shelf that they know how to do. They can take it to a table, they can sit down and work with it. There are rugs that they can work on if they want to if they want to work on the floor. They go grab a rug, they lay it out on the floor, they get the material, they take it to the rug and they work with it. They put the material back, they roll up the rug, they get a new material. What you see in a Montessori classroom is a teacher who observes the classroom. They sit down, they take notes about every child, and they observe the children. They make adjustments to what's needed in the classroom based on what they see. What I see in my regular Bushiban classes, and especially when teachers get together, our teachers always saying, what can we do to make this child fit into our classroom? A very different shift with Montessori is what can we do to change our classroom to fit the needs of the child. And a very simple example of this actually came from my mom. She was teaching Montessori, and she had a student who was walking around, this little 3-year-old girl. She would just walk around the classroom, and she would occasionally stop. And then she'd just walk around the classroom again, and she'd occasionally stop. My mom went up to her and said, "Can I show you this work?" She'd show it to her, they'd put it away, and then the girl would start walking again. "Can I show you this work?" She'd start walking again. It was like it was something like, my mom was like, something's not working here. So she told her assistant, "Look, just for today, you take care of the students. I'm going to sit and observe. We tell the students not to come up with me." And she watched that girl. Now what she would do is she would walk around the classroom just randomly. She would stop and she would look at one material that she knew she wasn't ready for. It was something that the 6-year-olds were just starting to get into. Then she would stop and she'd walk around again, and she'd stop again at that material and look at it. The only difference between that material and everything else in the room was the basket it was in. It was in a little basket that had a handle on it. So that night, my mom went into the supply room, took out a bunch of baskets with handles on it, put them around the room with works that this girl was interested in and that she had seen. And she said, okay, now you know that any room, that anything that she said to the girl the next day, any material that has a basket on it, I put that out for you. And the girl just went right to work. I mean, for the entire 3-hour work period, she just sat there and would take out one thing, work with it, put it back, go get another thing, work with it, for the entire 3 hours. And she stayed like that for the rest of the year. There was another example where I had, welcome by the way.
Yes, hi.
Hello, no, that's okay. There was another example I had recently where, well, I had a while ago. I've been out of Montessori, unfortunately, for a few months. But there was one example of a kid who came in and he obviously there was something not quite right about him. Not quite normal about him. He didn't quite seem to mesh with the rest of the group. And he would always sit in the corner and just play with stuff, just, really crazily. If you said something to him, he would repeat back exactly what you said. It's like, hi, how are you today? And he'd say, how are you today? It's like our first week of Bushiban class with our kids. And what we had to do with him, we started to realize that he had all these signs of very mild autism, of Asperger's syndrome, if you guys know what that is. And he would get distracted really easily with people all around him. So what we did, he would make all kinds of noises. If something happened over here, he would just get up and run. So what we did for him was we gave him his own seat with, we gave him something where he had stuff on the side. It wasn't that we were trying to make him fit into our classroom that we already had. We said, he needs this, these borders on the side of him when he works, so that when he's working, he can concentrate on what he's doing. And he did a fantastic job. So I think one of the biggest things about Montessori is not what are we going to do to make our kid fit into this place. It's what can we do to this place to help the child fit in, to help the child thrive in this environment. And so I think that's one of the biggest things about Montessori that I've ever seen. Now, as far as how we run our normal day, if you walk into a Montessori classroom, like I said, I already mentioned the areas when I was nervous, and I'm kind of calm now, so hopefully I'll do a lot better. There are different areas. The classroom will run for, ideally, for about 3 hours. Sometimes, your schedule, you have to go 2.5 hours. Sometimes people don't really have that whole 3-hour work period. But ideally, you have about a 3-hour block of time where the kids, from the time the kids come in to the time you end that work cycle. During that whole time, the children will pick up materials to take them to their place. They'll work with them. They'll be engaged, and they'll return them to the shelf. There's a period where it starts off where they don't do very much. Then it starts getting, they start concentrating a little bit more, and then a little bit more, and then it just drops down. And you'll see it right away, about an hour and a half into that. Everyone starts walking around. Everyone's just talking to each other. Everyone's playing different things. Everyone's just, if they're taking a work off, they're taking something they did 2 years ago, and they could just do it really fast. Then suddenly that work goes away, and for the next maybe hour or so, you have these kids working on this stuff that just, they're sitting there working, these 4 or 5-year-olds, 6-year-olds are working for 30, 45, 50 minutes on just maybe one really hard material that they've never done before. And so that's normally what you'll see in a Montessori classroom if you observe the whole time. You'll see that work cycle. We don't have to tell them to work. You have a question?
Yeah, I'm just curious, what's the rationale behind that? How they settle on 3 hours?
It was trial and error. If you read Maria Montessori's old books, she had a very different work schedule. Like her first book, it was, I don't even remember exactly what it was, but eventually it grew into something where she noticed, I guess maybe one day she just noticed they were getting tired, they're walking around, and maybe she just said, well, let's see what happens. And then they went right into work again. And, not everyone follows that 3 hours exactly, but that's where it came from again. It's just observing the children, seeing what they need, seeing what they're interested in, and how it works. So that's a great question. And it's not in any of her writings, but she apparently taught it later during her training sessions. So there's some dispute over between people whether it should be actually 3 hours, but most people go 2.5 to 3 hours in their time frame there. And it works magically. Something else about the materials, there are different materials, and what I love is that you don't have to teach, you don't have to prod these kids into working. They work with something until suddenly it makes sense and it's clear, and then they'll practice it again for a while, but then they're ready to move on to the new thing, the next thing. And this happened to me recently because I've been teaching 3 to 6 year Montessori. Sorry, can I just get a little bit of water?
Yeah.
If anyone, yeah, thank you. 3 to 6 year old Montessori for years. And I had one kid who came into the classroom and he, thank you so much. Every day he came into the classroom and he would do these really long works. He was 6 years old and he had almost every country of the world memorized from our maps. He was doing, long well, at least 2-digit multiplication problems really easily. He was doing these long works. He was spending, half hour, 45 minutes on different math things. Then he went to the regular school and they gave him these timed math tests of these 3 + 2 = 5, and you have to do this many in a minute, and they timed him. And of course he could do them, but his parents eventually got bored with it and asked me to tutor him. And so I went back, and the first thing I showed him was this square roots thing that I did with you. And right away he took off with it, and he just was like, oh, give me another problem, give me another problem. Then I showed him how to do square roots of 4-digit numbers, and he loved it, and he took off with it. But at one point he was working with it, and he was loving it, and then the next time I went to work with him, he did it about 2 times. He said, wait a minute, we just did the square root of 1024. We figured out it's 32. He's like, I see why. And he pointed at these 4 stamps. These are called stamps. He pointed at these. He's like, well, that's 4. That's 2 times 2. He's like, yeah. And he pointed at these these set of 6 stamps that said 10 on them. He said, well, that's 60. That's 30 times 2. I said, yeah. And there's another row of 30 times 2. He said, that's 60. That's 30 times 2. And then he was like, that's 900. That's 30 times 30. This is coming from a first grader. I said, yeah, you're right. That's why this layout makes, that's why this works. And he was like, okay. And he did it like 2 more times, and then just didn't want to do it anymore. It's like he just had this curiosity of why does this work, and he finally figured it out, and suddenly it snapped with him as far as why it works. And then he was ready for something else. He wanted new challenges. And that's what happens in the Montessori classroom. These kids are working. They aren't working just to get a worksheet done. They're working because they're like, this is amazing to me. And doesn't it want to, I'm so glad I have questions. Yes.